We demystify what goes on behind the therapy room door. Join us on this voyage of discovery and co-creative conversations. This is the Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors podcast.
With Bob Cooke
and Kellie Barratt.
Hello and welcome to the Therapy Show Behind Closed Doors. I'm here with Bob Cooke and I am Kellie Barratt. Hello, Bob.
Hi, Kellie. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I know what the podcast is, I remember from last week, so I'm looking forward to talking about this, but I'll let you introduce it.
So we're on podcast number 220 and our title is What to Do When the Therapy Process Seems to Have Plateaued.
Yes, so let's go over to you. So let's first of all discuss what plateaued means.
Yes.
So when I thought of this title, I thought, here's honestly 38 years working clinically. One of the sort of areas I often thought about was when therapy, there's a lot of change seems to happen, and then there's a sort of quietness, or there's a slowing down, or there's a stuckness in that slowing down, quiet, or whatever it is we want to call it. And I often thought then, what do therapists do when they've done a lot of good work or appears a lot of changes happening, and then there's a sort of plateauing, or the energy goes out of the therapy process? What do therapists do? That's where I mean by plateauing, where there's sort of all the energy suddenly dries up. Almost like a stagnation process. It doesn't happen with all clients, but I have noticed that with some clients. So that's what I mean by plateaued.
Yes, and that's what I thought you meant about that. Yeah, like a stagnation, and it feels like we're not getting anywhere.
So what do you do?
My first thing is to go back to the contract.
Oh, look, Eric Byrne would adore you. If you'd have been around Eric Byrne in the 1960s, you would have been in the inner circle. You would have been with Finito English, and you would have been with the inner circle people, because that's exactly probably what I think Eric Byrne would say. Yes.
Because I think what's going on here?
Eric Byrne, the creative transaction analysis, people not what. And so you go to recontract, yeah? Or you go back?
I look back at the contracts and think, have we gone off course? Have we achieved the contract? Do we need to? It's a bit of a review process, really, to kind of say where we at, what's happening here. Well, where does the client feel they are? Have we achieved what we wanted to achieve? And if we've not, then what's that about? I think about client motivation often. If they're not feeling very motivated, or perhaps something's getting played out with boundaries, and I'm thinking, what's happening here? So they might be starting to come late or pay late, or something might be happening between us that I've not picked up on. So first I go back to the contract. I look at the relationship between us and I go back to the contract. They're my two main points.
Which comes first?
The relationship, because my first thing is, I think, have I missed them somehow? And then when if I'm doing my processing and I can't find anything, then I go to the contract.
Interesting. And does that work? Either of those ways? Yes,
usually the client might say, well, that doesn't feel so important what I wanted then, and actually I want this now, or so, and it's fine to recontract you. That's absolutely, that's okay with me. I want the client to get what they want.
I like both those, by the way. And a third one I'd like to just ask you, do you consider transference at that particular time? And you don't have to.
Yeah.
Well, you see, I think you must do to a certain extent, because when you said, I go to the relationship.
Yes.
And to a certain extent, I thought, that's really good. And then I thought, does she actually think about, counter-transference, and think about who she might represent to the client, or the client might represent. So that's That's what I meant by transference.
Yes. Yeah. I'd love to say that the first thing I think of, but it's not actually. So when I'm processing, I think about what's happening between us. So I am doing the transference, counter transference, but I just that the I don't term it in those words. Or so, but that is what I suppose I'm doing in my processing. I'll get my
Yeah.
journal out and I'll be writing and what's happening here and what,
But you are thinking about your own internal world.
Oh yeah, what I'm feeling for sure. Yeah.
Well, when somebody comes to supervision, saying perhaps the same thing we're talking about here, there's two really interesting questions that I will ask, which because I want to get to the projection of the client onto the therapist, and maybe the counter transference of the therapist with the client.
Yeah.
About looking at the relationship. So one of the question is, who are you for this client?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a discussion, with a sister, maybe it's the mother that or the father never had, or maybe it's X or a teacher or something else. I think that's a good avenue to explore
Mm-hmm.
because they might be enacting out with you in a way which they enacted out or didn't enact out with their significant other people. So in other words, they might be waiting for you to change them or to initiate things or be like Father Christmas or whatever it is because you're this idealized other person. But that's that way I'll ask. And then the other one is to look at the countertransference on who the client is for the therapist. Is it a younger part of themselves? Is it a hopeless part of themselves? Is it, maybe a cyst or maybe XXX? And that'll be more the countertransference. Because both those things could be happening and the end result might be a plateauing of therapeutic process. So I do think thinking about transference from that perspective is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. They're great questions. And it kind of makes me think I'd like to kind of create a sheet to fill in, like a with the like supervision questions for myself. So what did you ask? Who are you for this client?
Which is the projection
Yeah.
of that onto you.
Uh,
And the countertransference or way into the countertransference is to say, who is who's the client for you? Is it a younger part of yourself? Is it XXX?
yes. Yeah. I can get that quite quickly because when I find out what's happening, then I can think, oh yes, that reminds me of my mother, father, whatever. So
The
and
younger
my
part.
childhood. Mm.
See, I am, I studied transaction analysis. I train people to think TA. So Byrne would really have liked what you said, and I don't want to dismiss in any form or shape how useful going back to the contract or making a new contract is. So I don't want to dismiss that. I've had a second training though in relational psychotherapy. So, I always think now that in a group or individually, clients will enact out their histories, the therapist,
Yes.
and I think what we're talking about, plateauing or stillness or stagnation, is enacting out as well.
So they will have experienced it in their life, and here they are again.
Whatever that means for them.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, because clients play out their patterns with us.
All the time, they're relational patterns.
And often are you suggesting the client then is expecting something from the therapist to fix them or to do something?
Well, you'd have to go back to their history. In TA terms, script analysis. In relational terms, look at what could possibly, in terms of significant other child in processes, could be enacted out with you.
Yes.
So let's just make something up. Let's say that you have a client who comes to therapy and says, I I just don't understand why I always hold back on things. I did really well at school. I was seen as a success, but I've felt for many, many years I've been an imposter,
Mm.
and I've never reached my potential, I don't think. And not what I'd like to explore is this imposter syndrome and how I stop myself reaching my own potential.
Mm.
Got that?
Yeah.
Let's go back to what we were just talking about.
Mm.
And you think about the script, and you think about, well, I wonder what could be happening. We've done great work. This has made great redecisions. It's great transformation. And he or she now seems to be energyless, no motivation. And I'm not sure what to do next.
Mm.
Okay, so if we go back to what we said, that whole perfect about potential,
Yeah.
maybe in their history
Mm-hmm.
of their significant other people, they got strokes and a lot of validation from being successful, say, in school or marine biology or cognition or whatever it is, or for being a success, but they didn't get any strokes for really following their own path and exploring their own potential. Because, I'm making this up,
Mm.
because they had cautious parents
Mm-hmm.
who never gave any stroke for adventure, exploration, curiosity, but they give strokes for the client to get to a certain limit on what they saw as success.
So
And then that could get played out with the therapist,
mm-hmm.
where they've done all these wonderful changes. And then what happens next? They haven't got a map because they've never had parents that have actually given them permission to explore their own potential, curiosity, or whatever it is. So then they are waiting for you to do something.
Wow. Okay.
How's that for Viginette?
Yes. A vignette. Yes. Very good. Common, I'd say, the whole imposter syndrome. People talk about it a lot, don't they? But so the client would be waiting for me to.
Do something to initiate,
Mm.
give them permission to actually go further than where they stopped or whatever it is.
Yeah. So it's about kind of creating a new blueprint.
Yeah, so in the transference,
Mm.
in terms of a reparative experience,
Mm.
you would need to do something different
Yeah.
what happened in their own childhood.
Mm.
That's what I meant by exploring the transference.
Yes, yes. So create something different, give them different permissions.
Yeah. So if you switch this on the head and think about countertransference, maybe in the therapist's own history, they also had cautious parents
Mm. Mm.
who thought it was dangerous to allow the child to actually explore their own creativity, potential, and XXX. So they gave a lot of strokes for the person to only be successful to a certain amount.
Mm. So then that might scare the therapist.
Correct. So then the therapist might act out in a certain way. I don't know, explore it cognitively, but doesn't deal with the emotion behind it.
Mm. Yes. And won't know that unless they take it to supervision to work it through of what's happening.
A therapist usually needs to take this to supervision when nothing is happening. In inverted commas, nothing might be happening in therapy.
Yes.
The client had done this wonderful, transformational therapy.
Mm. And I guess if the client's avoiding the work, we would work that out if we would think about transference and counter-transference as well. If they,
Yeah, I think thinking about transference and counter-transference is a really important part of considering what's happening in the therapy realm.
yeah.
I mean, it might be just they need time to process and reflect on what they've achieved.
Mm.
So you can just ask them,
Mm.
and you might believe them when they say that back.
Yeah, yeah. I've had clients who kind of, there have been times where they might have said, well, nothing's changed. And then when we explore all the life, they go, well, oh, well, I've got a new job and I've got a new house and I'm in a new healthy relationship. And so the clients don't always recognize the changes that they're making in other areas. But
Yeah, and I also think when you get to that space in psychotherapy, I think a nice metaphor that I like to think about is layers of an onion.
Yes.
As we go down the layers of an onion, perhaps somebody needs a breath or time to just stop and look at the scenery, or maybe therapy is going too fast, or maybe they feel overwhelmed, or maybe they need you to be able to say, I've just been thinking about this. Are there things perhaps that are happening between the two of us or in the therapeutic approach which aren't being explored because it seems like all the energy has been sucked out of the therapy? How is it for you?
Mm.
And that might take them to another level.
And what if they don't? What if
Who?
the client, what if they don't go to the next level?
You mean if they say, oh no, everything's fine, I've done all the work, XXX, we've achieved what we've come for, perhaps it's time to leave therapy. I'd say
Yeah,
that, might they?
yeah, they might. Yeah.
Now, there's a really interesting one. Takes me to the last podcast we've been talking about, really. But and that is ending of psychotherapy, not just the therapy. I mean, Eric Berne, the creative transactionalist, would answer when they've achieved their contract. Well, that's one way of looking at it. But 80 years later, I think maybe I would look at it relationally a little bit and say, oh, that's interesting. You perhaps are thinking that nothing's happening. So what do you think might be happening in this space between you and I? Is it like you're sort of really nourishing the silence, and it's really sort of nourishing for you? Because my sense of it isn't that. It's almost like the whole energy's disappeared from the room. And in those two spaces we're both describing here, I wonder if there's a midway or something may be happening that we don't know. So I would tend to go that way.
And keep exploring with the client till you find it together.
Or you see, I think again, as TA therapists would train to look at when people in their adult ego state, their child ego state, or their parent ego state. So if we make between us a clinical sort of hypothesis that we're both an adult, then maybe there won't be other things to look at.
I guess though, if my sense is if we've come to the end of the contract or the end of the work, it won't feel like a plateau or a stagnation because there's energy in the ending.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of motivation, celebration, energetic responses about how do I integrate these things in my life and how do we end around here?
Yeah,
that's right. So when I use the word plateau on purpose in a way, because I think that's from the child ego state.
Okay.
Because they're waiting for something to happen. I mean, that's one way of looking at it.
Yes. So like a silent waiting and watching.
Yeah. I think it's really important that the therapist takes it to supervision. Because often, especially when you talk to beginning therapists, by the way, they go to a place of, what do I do next then?
Yes.
What do I do in this moment? And they bring it to me. I often say, oh, well, let's just play around with this one. What would you like to do? I say to the therapist.
Yeah.
The therapist says, well, I want to shake him up. There's lots to do. We've been doing lots of good therapy, and suddenly you're just stagnation, and I want to explode at you, or whatever it is. So then we're right into the therapist's countertransference, aren't we?
Yes, yeah.
I think it's really important for the therapist to take whatever's happening for him in the moment This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Supervision.
Yes. And explore it. Yeah.
Because there may be nothing to fix.
Mm.
It depends how younger therapists usually want things to fix, or I don't know what to do, or and then the other part of this is, perhaps we'll have some mindfulness together, but and concentrate on being rather than doing. But the younger therapist will definitely want to do the right thing. And what do I do now?
I think it takes confidence as a therapist to be able to hold that space and not panic and not worry that the client will get angry with us.
Or something.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think you're right, to hold that moment without jumping into some sort of panic where they feel they've got to do something.
Yeah, yes.
It's interesting though, isn't it?
It is. It's fascinating talking about it.
Because I think all therapists will come across these moments, or people listening to us will have some identification.
And well, as the therapist, certainly for trainee therapists, the belief is that we're supposed to know what we're doing, and we're supposed to hold the space and be the expert, as opposed to, well, let's see what's happening in this space between us. And it's not all ours to hold.
That's great to think of it that way. It's a system. It's between both of us.
Yeah, we're co-creating it. I've got another idea I'd like to talk to you about, but it is a bit TA because it's about escape hatches.
How long have we got?
I don't know. Hang on. Oh, we've not got long. We've got about 6 or 7 minutes.
I'll tell you why I asked that, because I can meander off on almost every topic. So as long as you explain the concepts to the non-TA listeners, I think that's fine. I'm always interested in talking about psychotherapy, and especially about what we're talking about now, as long as the listeners understand what you're talking about.
Yes. So how I think of it, an escape hatch is it's an unconscious process of our way of exiting our problems. So one of them might be, well, if everything gets too much around here, I'll kill myself. Or if everything gets too much around here, I'll kill someone else or harm someone else. Or if everything gets too much around here, so back in the 50s, they said go crazy, but it was probably go into psychosis, we'd say now. So it's an escape mechanism. So when things get really hard, we're just going to find a way to escape.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So I wonder, and I've heard it somewhere, it's not mine, but if a client has an escape hatch open, is that a way we could stagnate or plateau?
Which one would you say would be, out of those three you've given me there?
Yeah.
Which one are you referring to might be open?
Oh, good question. I was thinking of all of them really.
Well, it's interesting because in the book by oh God, I can't remember the two therapists who came up with this. Boyd and Boyd.
Oh yes.
77. They came up with the concepts you're talking about. Now, in the original article by them, they talked about this is the child's defense process to have or the way you've just described it, to be escape from their script if things get too hard.
Yeah.
So they would argue that a TA therapist who thinks about escape hatches would close those escape hatches within the first 7 sessions of a therapy session. They close them routinely with all their clients by the 8th session.
Yeah.
So they would have closed them. And what their thinking was with this was that if we get them to have a commitment to live, not to go crazy, commitment to not harm themselves or other people, then we can get on with the work because the escape hatches have been closed. Now, I was trained very early on because I started to be trained TA escape hatches in 1986. And there's a huge debate going on then between Ian Stewart, who was a well-known, he wrote TA Today and TA World, and Alida Hargaden, who went on to write that book on relational TA in 2008. And I remember this in sort of 1988 in the RTA Journal. They had these debates about Ian Stewart did the Boyd and Boyd way and closed very early on. And Helena Argan didn't believe in it at all.
Ah, yes, it's quite controversial, I imagine.
Because she thought by bringing this up,
Mm.
you are leading them down a particular route, or could be.
Feels very early to me, 7 sessions.
So, but why I think you're bringing the discussion is that. Oh no, I'll let you say. So, what you're thinking about bringing that into this podcast and this subject?
Because I'm just wondering if something, perhaps there might be an avoidance from the client or the therapist if there's something in the ether that hasn't been quite picked up. So perhaps somebody isn't going somewhere because there's an escape hatch open. So, and there's a fear that the client might then harm themselves, someone else, or go crazy. So,
if you had that as your thinking,
mm,
when somebody's quiet or withdrawn, or the energy's
mm,
gone, or the plateau, or whatever we're talking about, what do you do next?
and with escape hatches.
Well, I hear you're thinking that way.
Yes, yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine, by the way. What do you do though with that thinking?
Oh, so if I have got a concern about a client, I would talk to them. Talk
So
to them
the
about it.
plateau, the motor veil things you're talking about, and you
Mm,
think somebody perhaps is gone to a don't exist place, or you feel they may go harm themselves,
mm.
you will talk to them.
Yeah, and I would say something like, I feel like you're moving away from me. It might be very slowly, but finding it hard to stay in contact with you. Is there something going on? Are you having any thoughts about harming yourself? Any suicidal thoughts?
Right?
I would definitely talk to them.
Well, I like the thinking. I don't think that way myself. I
Mm,
know many therapists do, by the way. I know many people. I mean, I like it in the relational approach of asking, I experience you going away from me, and is there things happening, all those things. I don't particularly link it to escape hatch closure, but I like the theory.
mm,
And I think it is good to inquire
mm,
about, have you gone to a place where you might be thinking about harming yourself or other people? I think that's great inquiry.
mm. And it might not be occur to it might not be around, but I suppose if it's an unconscious process and it's and not all therapists work like that, do they? But it just I just wondered if that kind of something isn't working, that there's a hatch open somewhere.
Fine that you think that way, Kelly. I mean, I know lots of therapists that do. It's not a theory, I think.
Yeah.
What
Mm,
I do think of, though,
mm,
is unconscious processes.
yes.
And I do think of the levels of unconsciousness of awareness.
Mm,
And so I would work relationally and talk about, well, do we think something else is happening? Something else is happening. So I do believe in unconscious processes, and that's a different story.
mm,
I like the theory,
mm,
even though I like it to a certain extent.
mm.
Um, it's not a podcast on escape hatches, because if it
Mm.
was, we could talk for half an hour about the problems I have with it. It's not.
That could be an interesting podcast.
Yeah. But I think it's a nice way to think about in terms of what's happening.
Mm,
Experience you going away from me.
mm,
Are you moving away from the attachment?
mm,
Have you got what's your fantasies about yourself at the moment?
mm,
So it guides thinking. It guides
yes, yeah,
a guide into an unconscious world.
mm,
I
yeah,
like.
mm,
And of course, I know we're running out of time completely. We haven't even talked about the schizoid phenomena,
yes,
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 where
mm,
people withdraw and they have a fear of exposure. So, like this other podcast last week, I think there should be a part 2 to this podcast. But it's an interesting to think about this stage of psychotherapy, which often happens, and it often, in my experience clinically, it's often a bridge to a deeper pattern.
Yes.
Relating. But the therapist needs to inquire.
Yes.
To take them to that place.
Yeah, I agree, because if there is something going on, it's a good way to air it and then process it, and then the relationship gets deeper then from it.
I fear of contracts, but I like contracts. You've heard me say this many times, so it's not that I don't like contracts. But if a person goes to contracts too quickly, they may go away from what it's really about on the unconsciousness. They go to cognitive, take the person back to adult, have adult discussions, go off somewhere else maybe, and the moment has gone to explore what might be happening at another level.
So that would be my process. So there's something in me at that moment. Instead of exploring it, if it moved to the contract, there's something in me that's happening that I need to process and take to therapy or supervision.
Yeah, or you can mix them both. You can take them to another level, and then from there you might want to make a different contract.
Yeah. Oh, interesting stuff, Bob.
It is, and I know we've come to the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
But I knew when you said about, we've got 7 minutes. I'd like to bring escape hatches in. I thought, really go? Can we really go into that theory in 7 minutes? I think we need a podcast on it.
Yes, yeah. Well, it'd be really interesting to think about how all the different people think about it. Because I hear what you're saying, that, it is quite an old concept. And I know that many more contemporary writers aren't fans of it.
I'm not a particular fan of it, but I need a podcast to explain why. I understand the thinking behind it, and I like the way it led you in that our conversation about thinking about what possibly could be happening.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Me too. Me too. So our very next podcast is going to be the importance of object constancy in the therapy process, and does this lead to effective psychotherapy?
Can't wait.
Object constancy. Bring it on.
You know what object constancy is.
I do, yes.
So does most therapists and people listening, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll come in next week to our thoughts and co-created conversation.
Yes, yes. And you can please do leave us comments on about anything we've talked about in this podcast, particularly the escape hatches. That will fire us on to have
if they've ever heard of that theory.
Well,
I mean, I tell you why I knew where it came from so well, is because I don't agree with it much. In the sense, well, look, I think there's powerfulness to this theory, by the way, because I've actually, in my training, they asked us to close escape hatches, so I know how powerful it is, and the thinking as well. But philosophically, there's things I don't particularly agree with, but because I was so interested in all this, I know exactly where the authors of the article was in 1977. It was Boyd and Boyd. So I know a lot. I remember it because I found it a very powerful technique, and I later went away from using it.
Oh, well, that would be really interesting to hear why you did that, what were you thinking was around it. So great. I look forward to that. But yes, the next one is object constancy. So
well, I'll see you next week.
You will.
One thing about these podcasts, they can provide a level of object constancy, I hope.
Yes. Well, weekly, here we are, every week.
Okay, then.
Bob. Take care.
Yes, when the podcast appears on a Thursday at 6 o'clock, that provides, I hope, for some of our viewers or listeners, a psychological object constancy, a predictability, continuity, and stability?
I'm sure it does, because that's what therapy does, doesn't it?
Okay, see you next week, and thank
Take
you.
care. See you now.
Yeah.
Bye, Bob.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'll be back next week with another episode.